Welcome to week 7 of our fiction course. Much of what we have read has revealed a recurring theme, the way the past lingers, shaping the present, influencing decisions, and sometimes refusing to let go. The stories we have encountered are haunted, not always by literal ghosts, but by memories, histories, regrets, choices that echo across time. Think about some of the stories from the mystery genre you might have read, like a crisis from the past revisits us in the present. Might be a murder, a heist, a disappearance. What about the horror genre? Right? A crisis from the past revisits us in the present. A long dead vampire returns. Consequences from some atom bomb test creates a monster. Experimentation with genetics or some other powerful new technology destroys our peace, maybe our world. Let's imagine a work in the genre of political thriller. A crisis from the past revisits us in the present. A once elected, convicted rapist with dictatorial ambitions regains the presidency through lies and deception, using the mechanisms of democracy to dismantle it from within. The Constitution, a once safeguard against tyranny, is systematically eroded as institutions fall under his control and the courts are stacked. The press is silence. The election laws are rewritten to ensure that power never slips from his grasp again. What was once a thriving democracy becomes an illusion, a hollow shell in which the people's voices are meaningless. His brood of oligarchs, enriched by corruption and loyal only to themselves, tighten their grip on a subjugated nation where the last remnants of the middle class vanish, leaving only aristocrats at the top and peasants at the bottom. Those who remember the past, who see the warning signs, who resist, find themselves hunted, exiled, or worse. The crisis is not only political, it is existential, for once democracy is lost, history warns that it rarely, if ever, is restored. So who remembers my Please Read video, right? I see you. If you haven't watched it, check it out in week 6 of this course. Speaking of which, one of our course outcomes asks us to articulate how culture and context shape literary texts and how literature contributes to understandings of ourselves and the world. One of the clearest ways literature does this is by exploring the relationship between past and present, how history shapes identity, how personal collective memory influence perception, and how choices once made cannot always be undone. At the beginning of our course, we read Apollo. The structure of that story blends that past with the present in a huge flashback. And what about Beloved? I know not all of us are reading Beloved this term, but what if I can make it so tasty you simply can't ignore it and you read it this summer? It's worth a shot anyway. Few novels make this theme about how the past lingers in the present more explicit than Beloved. This is a novel literally haunted by the past, with the ghost of the dead child serving as both a supernatural presence and, spoiler, a deeply psychological one. Setha's past is shaped by the horrors of slavery, refuses to remain buried. The trauma she carries, both as an individual and as part of a broader historical experience, manifests in the figure of Beloved, who forces those around her to confront what they might otherwise wish to forget. Morrison's novel does not allow easy resolutions. The past cannot be erased. It can only be faced, reckoned with, and perhaps understood. In this way, Beloved forces our engagement not only with personal memory, but with national history. This idea of the past haunting the present appears in many of the texts we have explored. In A Rose for Emily, Faulkner presents a protagonist who is trapped by history. Emily Grierson is not only isolated in her decaying home, she is also isolated in time, unable or unwilling to move forward. Her final act, revealed at the end of the story, is an attempt to freeze time, to hold on to something long after it should have been let go, right? Much like Setha in Beloved, Emily's past dictates her present, but in her case, it is an unyielding attachment that ends up controlling and distorting her entire existence. in Apollo by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, the ghost is not a spectral figure or a corpse, but the weight of a past action. The protagonist as an adult is forced to confront the consequences of his childhood betrayal when he learns that the boy he once admired and had quite a crush on, whom he falsely accused, has become a criminal. The past is inescapable, not in the form of a haunting presence, but in the form of regret and realization. Much like Morrison's Beloved, this story suggests that past actions shape the present in ways that cannot always be foreseen. In Poe's The Black Cat, we're given a more visceral representation of haunting. Here, guilt takes the shape of a returning cat, a creature that should not exist and yet refuses to disappear. The narrator's descent into madness is fueled by his own violent past, and no matter how much he tries to dismiss or destroy it, the past remains growing louder, more insistent until it finally consumes him. Even in Hills Like White Elephants, where the haunting is not supernatural, very natural, we see the weight of past choices pressing in on the characters. The conversation between the man and the woman is shaped by unspoken history, by assumptions, by expectations forged through culture and personal experience. The past is present in every hesitation, every half-spoken thought. This theme of the past's inescapability extends beyond individual experiences. Just as personal actions have consequences that echo forward, so do societal and historical ones. In The Fourth Holiest City in Islam by Peter Lassalle, he explores the ways cultural narratives shape perception, history, religion, and storytelling. They all intersect to create a layered exploration of how places and people are defined by what has come before. The past does not just haunt individuals, it constructs the frameworks through which societies understand themselves. Even outside of fiction, we see this pattern, how votes were cast in the past, how policies were shaped, how societies made choices. All of these linger. They do not disappear with time. Instead, they manifest in new ways, shaping the present and the future. Literature teaches us that the past is never truly gone. It influences characters, societies, and historical movements, whether it takes the form of a ghostly figure, an unresolved trauma, or a bitter, hateful social climber, or the burden of regret. The past is always present, waiting to be acknowledged. In Beloved, Rose for Emily, Apollo, The Black Cat, and many other short stories, we have seen how culture and context shape literary texts. We have seen how stories reflect the ways history lingers, how memory shapes identity, how literature forces an engagement with what might otherwise be left buried. There are moments that must not be ignored. So, as we continue thinking about literature, one question remains. How does our own past, both personal and collective, continue to shape our present? And what might it mean to truly confront it? How are we to act and react in a world filled with uncertainty, greed, and oppression? That is what literature is trying to help us deal with.